My name is Alice McClinton Ferguson, and I was born 8 20th and 29, Dallas County, and the oldest in Northpark, which was Elm Thicket. I lived at 6829 McTier Street. It was in the bottom here. And in 1940, we moved to the Hill, which was 6730 Tyree Street. It was my original residence for all my life until my family's home place burned down in 1958. Well, we were still looking for a place to grow, and we did. Mr. Brown was run my uncle was a caregiver, and he was very talented, and so he took care of the cotton fields for Mr. Brown and my father and my aunt. My father and my mother and the aunt and Uncle Richard worked the caregiver for the Browns, for the animals, and all of the caretaker for the. Mary Howard was the caregiver in the house. She was a maid, and the uncle took care of the farmland and the cattle. And by that, we had a cow. We had our own milk and butter. We had our own chickens, and we killed hogs. My father and uncle did. And it was just great to learn what they were doing, and I liked to watch. They just was looking for work and looking for some place to get started, because they just travel and did on cotton picks, like in the fall they would have to try to find work to do, and this is why we landed here in Elm Thicket. And it was a real adventure, because just like I told them, it was just a nice little country town to me, because in 1929, there was really nothing out here but farmland and the cotton patches. We just thought that this was just an ideal place, but it was sort of muddy. We had no paved streets, all the water was well water. And we did this after we moved to 6730 Tyree Street. Of course, there was one fountain, a hydrant, where they got the city water, because the school was under construction and they had bought the water in. And this is where people came to buy the big barrels of water for 5 cents a barrel. And it was just a blessing when everybody could get their own water, when the water lines came in to Elm Thicket. When I was a little girl, I used to help my brothers do papers. So that's why I got to know all of the people in the neighborhood, because I had to print out all the names and the addresses for Mr. Erickson, the Times Herald paper man. And my brother wouldn't give me 50 cents, so he wouldn't have to do it. And that would be the papers were only 15 cents per week during that time. So that was I thought, a real good money maker for me. It's the school events was very important to us, and our school and our churches was really the activities that we had in the neighborhood. That's all we had. For instance, I can remember my mother having the Progressive Voters League in our home, because our house was the biggest house on Tyree Street that we could get all the pastors in at the churches. And I think we had 4 churches during that time. And just to the events, that she would cook dinner for all of the ministers, and they love having a meeting because they knew they was going to get fried chicken and everything else that she loved to cook. We had a lady that ran a kind of a little teenage thing that she let the children come and listen to music, and she would sell hamburgers and ice cream, candies out of the place. And that was just real fun to be able to have a knee-high soda. And we also had LT Dave was the real barbecue. This was the largest barbecue restaurant in Dallas, because they come from miles and miles around to come to get barbecue from LT Dave. And of course, he had a motel, he had a garden, and a beer garden and things of this nature, but I didn't get to participate in that. I won't say, because to me, I really didn't think that we were having a hard time, because I didn't know any better. But because my mother we always had plenty to eat, and we served everybody in the neighborhood, so it wasn't really bad. And I thought, well, when I know not to go in past Roper Street, because when we played, that was just it. But to reach this goal is to integrate from that I could even go across to where all of those little houses where I now live was segregated to the offices of the lived there for after Lovefield had closed off. Then I just liked to know that I just felt free anyway. They said free. I consider free as just doing what you had to do, what your parent told you to do, and I live by that. But it was just, when I became back to this community in 1957, I brought my children back when I moved to Prosper Street. And it was always good. The school that I attended when I was a little girl, I just think my children deserve better. And that's when I went to the city of Dallas, Dimple Lark and Georgia Thomas, and we decided that we wanted a better school. And that was the greatest event in my life, is to give my children something that I had not had the opportunity of. They integrated. When I moved on Prosper Street in 57, they had already in 1950 decided from Kenwell over that Kenwell was the next street that they integrated. And then we had Sam Hudson, who was, I think he integrated to Robin Road, and that was a big, each step, it's just been step by step. And of course, I think it grew when Lovefield would expand, then they would give us another street, to go a little, to advance living quarters, because when they first took over, everybody had to move to West Dallas, because West Dallas was an open community they were building it up during that time. When C.R. Smith first decided to come to Dallas. I think he was with American Airlines and Braniff and Delta. That was three airlines that had come together, but then they didn't have landing. The spaces, the area was congested, so they wanted to expand. And each time they would expand, they would take a little Elm Thicket along with them. And growth has just taken over the city. We loved the airport, but for a while we had to it was really awful because the sounds of the airplanes was taking off. And we had to get sound barriers for them because there's no way you could sleep after, starting at 3 o'clock in the morning, the flights would just come in rotation, you know, and it was hard. But I think we have stood the task, and they have done a beautiful job with the sound barriers now, so it's not as bad. So, but do you really know when the flights are taking off, like starting at 6 o'clock? But you have to live somewhere. You move right along with the growth. I think expansion brings about growth, but I sure hated it when American Airlines left Loveville, because that's where my husband worked for C.R. Smith and American Airlines, and I was just beginning to get a ticket to fly to California, because all my brothers had moved to L.A., you know, looking for better jobs and so forth, and they did. And it was just something that I thought, get a free airline ticket, if that was a real, oh, that was a biggie. So for the employees, you get so many flying hours. Oh, Civic League, thank you. Mr. Evans was our Civic League, and we still had problems with street lighting and with streets deteriorations and with we didn't, they just kind of, after the expansion, it just kind of was going down, and we wanted to keep our neighborhood up. And so there was requirements. We had block captains for each street that worked with them, and when we had our meetings and what we was doing. Don Grossman and the other guy's name is a young man that was working for the city of Dallas. He came out and helped us. It was that we needed alleys paved. We need all the things to build a city up, you know, to build a neighborhood up. And keeping your property clean, and don't have trash and cars and all this old stuff. The city of Dallas was all we had to do was call in and have the people clean up their properties. And that came through the Civic League. Well, the Crime Watch was a great thing that came in because our neighborhood had beginning to get infested with drugs. And it's a lot of break-ins, and you'd have to make a report to who all had break-ins and get your police report, make sure that it was accounted for so that they could keep records of how many homes or what was happening in the neighborhood. We had a special chairman for that too, for the Civic League. Then the churches got involved with the drug problems that we had. And it was a big help in reporting a crime and knowing how to report it. Mr. Evans said, just report it. You don't have to give your name. You just tell it where it's happening. And that way that the police department could work with us on that. We've just been real proud we're really proud of this center, because the seniors had no place to go, and we had no recreation whatsoever. And then for the health things, I think in 1995, we had the diabetes awareness program was set up in the northern sector here in Dallas, from the city of Dallas and from Elm Thicket. No, it wasn't Elm Thicket then. It was Northpark. Okay, we left Elm Thicket. We're going to go to Northpark now. And this was the center. And then we also had a northern sector for the diabetes awareness program was for K.B. Polk and the Willie B. Johnson Recreation Center at Hamilton Park. My hopes, I wish that I could have been still functioning, where I could have had one of these big houses put over on at 6730 Tyree, so I could just grow with the growth. But at 88, you have to give up your goals. But I wish that we could still maintain our neighborhood, and we still have to grow. But when you come to the neighborhood where all the seniors are seniors, real seniors, you know, like from 80 up to 90, 92, 94, it's a problem, because we cannot grow. You see the little house sitting in the center, and there's a mansion on each side. Well, you know that there's a problem there, because there's somebody still there that's 90 years old. I really don't know what I wish for this neighborhood. I wish that we could all still be united and come together, because that's what we all got to do, is to be united with each other. But to see that happening, it's just a question mark in my mind of how we could even do it. I can't see it, because we're all so old, and the younger generations are coming in to take over, and quite naturally they're going to sell, because they just don't. We want to move up. And I thought, well, you all, this is still your home. They know. No, my family is all suburban areas, you know. They're moving out. They got bigger, better houses. But if we'd waited a little while longer, we could have had a bigger house or something. But anyway, it's for their conveniences. As Josh would always say, we might not make six-figure wages, but if we maintain what we have and have morals and standards and keep our places looking good, then we've accomplished something for the neighborhood.